If you'd like to hear the full episode or any of the scenario archives, be sure to subscribe and click the link in our bio. Also, like and follow the Scenario Radio Show on all of our social media platforms for more Real Talk with the playlist. Peace.
Okay, so you are here with us again with another edition of our special summer series that we're doing called Rooting for Everybody Black here at the Scenario Radio Show. So what we've been doing, for those of you, this is your first time listening, we've been making contact with different people from various sectors, Black people from different sectors, who are doing things that are really important during this time where we've got social upheaval, pandemics, everything you can imagine going on, murder hornets, whatever the case may be, and they're still making things happen. So today, who we have with us is from the Equity Alliance, Tereva Parham, the communications director. Tereva, how you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, all right, we knew we needed to get you guys on because, okay, ever since, for as long as I've been an adult and able to vote, people have been saying this is the most pivotal election that we are going to have. But I don't know if there's ever been a time that's been more correct than right now. So with the Equity Alliance, you guys are about mobilizing and getting people out and everything. And one of the things you're doing is the voter guide. Tell us about what's going on with that this year.
Yeah. You're right. You know, we strongly believe that every election is important and that we definitely want our people to vote in every election. But there are those elections that the stakes are almost raised higher than what they are. And there are more things, that really could kind of make or break where we are. And so, yes, it could get worse than what we see. But, for us at this point, what the Equity Alliance has been doing since 2017 is really making sure that we are able to educate Black people on voting, to empower them to go and to vote, and then to have them, not only show up for themselves, but encourage their family, encourage their friends, encourage strangers. We are, as a people, we know that we're resilient. We know that we're powerful. We know that we can, make ways out of no way. Let's do that when it comes to voting power. If you think about it, if voting wasn't so important, they wouldn't be doing so many things to suppress voters.
For real.
But they do so many things to suppress voters. So our job is to really make sure that we are out here educating our people and meeting our people in a real and authentic way. So, if you're at church, we want to make sure that we have people encouraging you at your churches to get involved. If you are, if you're somebody who likes to go to the club, hey, we're working with clubs to say, hey, if you've got people out there, let's let them know, yes, get your drink, but make sure you're registered to vote as well. So we're finding these ways to connect with people. And of course, we understand that in the days of COVID-19, things are different about that, how we're really able to connect and engage, but our message is still the same. Our methods are having to adapt to the time, but the message is still the same. We need people to understand the importance of their vote. And so one of the ways that we've tapped into that is by providing our voter guides. So they can be accessed at TN Voter Guides. That's plural, so guides with an S on it, .com, TN Voter Guides. And the reason that we're saying guides is because not only are we providing the Nashville guide, which we've actually been able to provide for 2 years now, but we are now moving into the place of providing a guide for Memphis and for Chattanooga, to major cities within the state that they need to be informed. And what we really want people to know is that these guides, they're free. They are nonpartisan, and they're really a public resource. So we've connected with the candidates in each of these locations to say, hey, tell us a little bit about yourselves. What's your platform? What's important to you? And then we compile all of that information into our guides, and we provide it as that free, nonpartisan resource to the public.
You were just saying that, with COVID-19, some of those, that whole thing may be a bit more challenging. What are you guys doing to kind of get over that or get around those challenges that we're having where you just can't really be all up in people's faces right now?
Of course, we're using our digital platforms more. So that looks like, typically when people say, hey, I want to help register folks to vote, or I want to volunteer with you, things like that. In those situations, what we are doing now is offering that virtual volunteer training. And with the virtual training, people are still able to get that important information, but do it in a safe way. When it comes to voting, we're encouraging people. If you want to vote absentee, and, we fought, we were definitely in support of basically suing the state to allow absentee voting to be available to everyone. Because as it stood, you had to meet one of 12 eligibility criteria. Well, none of that was simply, hey, because COVID-19 is going on and I don't feel like it's, I don't want to put myself in the position where I should have to go to the polls.
Yeah.
So we were able to fight with that. And so as it stands now, voters are able to vote by absentee. So we're encouraging people, use that mail-in ballot, request it. And then once you request it, so the last day to request a mail-in ballot is July 30th. In the state. And after you do that, make sure you go back and you turn it in as soon as possible so that it can be there by election day. So you submit the request and then they send you the ballot, and make sure you submit that ballot back in time. People also need to know about stamps. You're going to need to have stamps to mail that request form in, but also you'll need stamps to mail your ballot back in. But that's one way that people can be safe. We're also encouraging early voting. So with that, so it's hopefully that people won't have that rush of election day, meaning there'll be so many people at the polls. But of course, social distance, wash your hands, all the things that that the scientists and the medical professionals are telling us to do, we encourage those things. So if someone does not want to mail in their ballot, and we understand people do have questions about the security of mail-in ballots and things like that. But we want to say, hey, these are your options. You can either mail it in, you can either vote early, or you could go on election day. But no matter what you do, stay safe, stay healthy, but make sure that you're exercising your right to vote.
Oh, wait, you mentioned something there about you guys being nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
Also, very, very much in communities that are often marginalized where voting is concerned. And like you said, there are specific people who are trying to keep people from voting a lot of times. How do y'all work that out? How do y'all navigate that? Because I know you were saying you were reaching out to various candidates and you're trying to hear from people in their campaigns so that you can get so people can know what's what. How's that been working? Has people been responsive to you all on that end?
Yes. And I will say, even in cities like Memphis and Chattanooga, it was kind of like, wait, okay, maybe they had heard of the Equity Alliance or maybe they hadn't. So if you're hearing, oh, it's someone out of Nashville, we want to know your information, share your information with us so that we can put you in our guide. People did have questions, but the good thing about that is that we were able to provide them with our Nashville guides. So they could see kind of the format of what we were doing. Of course, Google us. If you want to know about who we are and what we do, Google us. So they were then able to go to our website, check out our social media profiles to really see that we're not some fly-by-night organization, but that we're a group that is here to really educate, to empower people. And, once they were able to see that information, then it went well and it was smooth in getting their information to get them involved in the voter guide. And ultimately, you're a candidate. Why wouldn't you want to get your information out to everyone? You never know whose vote you're going to earn. So you might as well take these opportunities to get the word out, to get the message, to, at least, boost your name, boost your platform, things like that in a way that's, really palatable for voters.
All right, I was wondering how that worked, because I'll be honest, I know there are candidates out there hoping Black people don't vote, so I just didn't see how they would be interested in sharing the information. But hey, it can't hurt, I guess. So at the end of the day, so they went with it.
Hurt. And for those who are, staunchly against us, okay, that just means that there's more room for other candidates to have their information in there. And there are times that we will release it to say, hey, this person is on the ballot, but we don't have any information for them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. There it is. So what else, as far as you guys in the Equity Alliance and the work that you're doing, what else is there that you feel is a primary concern for the Black voter right now?
For Black voters, our primary concerns, of course, I would just say first and foremost, it's the health. So making sure that we can vote in a way that is safe and that is healthy. But some other things that are on the minds of Black voters, although we are nonpartisan, we understand that within the two parties that we have, as it stands, even looking to November, that people are concerned. And so we want to make sure that we're just able to lift up those concerns, regardless of the parties of the various candidates. So Black people, we're concerned about health. We're concerned about criminal justice reform. We want restorative justice. We want, when we look at the fact that so many of our loved ones and community members, they pay their time, say they go off to prison and they go off, they get these charges, and for whatever reason, if their voting rights are taken away, we want to make sure that once they paid their debt to society, that they're able to come back and they're able to get that right to be restored. All of these things come into play when we look at what's at stake. Education is at stake. Being able to have our children educated in thriving environments, no matter if they're in, the poorest zip code or if they're in, the more affluent areas. We want to make sure that they are able to be educated. So it's a variety of things that our people are concerned about, in this election, not just the August one, but also coming up in November. And I will say specifically for August, a lot of times people think of the big presidential elections, but the elections that are, whether it's electing council members, electing mayors, electing state representatives, electing your Congress people, the things that they do on a more local and statewide level, those impact you even greater at times than those on the national level. So this is the opportunity to get people engaged in those local levels.
Yeah, let me ask you, because I know that Tennessee, which you guys are based in, has always had some pretty low what they call off-year numbers as far as election is concerned. And what is it that you can do? Do you feel like that you're making some traction this go around and everything? Because it's like, and that's across the board, not just black voters, it's across the board, off-year elections. And I hate that term off-year elections. I think there's no such thing as an off-year, but those non-presidential elections, it seems so hard to get people to get excited about voting or mobilized. What is it, how does that work for you all?
So for us, because we look at it as every election matters, we do things. So we love having an event called our Voting is Lit Block Parties. And so with that, we have block parties in areas where we see turnout is typically low. So no, it won't be for a presidential election, but it will still be for an election that is important.
Yeah, keeping it in front of them.
During those times when we're able to do that, we're getting the vote out, we're producing our voter guides. So we're helping people to see that, wait a minute, it's not just, once every 4 years that my vote is important. It's every time. And when you have that opportunity for them to look at the voter guide, that for someone who typically doesn't vote, then their mind is really enlightened. They're enlightened and their mind is open because they're saying, wait a minute, this is a whole lot of people, or wow, this particular position is responsible for these things in my local government or in my state government. Yeah. So it's really an opportunity to educate people who haven't even thought about the structure of government since they left high school.
Yeah, if they've thought about it there, because less and less high school is just showing us, anything about anything civic. So, all right, then when we're talking off air, you had mentioned that the Equity Alliance is also engaged in other areas beyond just the straight ahead politics. What are some of the other things you guys are doing right now?
Yes. So in addition to, making sure that we just raise the bar as it relates to Black voting engagement and empowerment, we're also looking at economic power. A lot of times people want to say, oh, voting isn't enough. And we agree. Voting isn't enough. And so what we're bringing on to kind of work alongside voting is boosting economic power. So on March 3rd, Nashville and Middle Tennessee experienced a number of tornadoes that unfortunately, some say decimated, some say just, completely obliterated. But depending on where you were in Nashville or Middle Tennessee, we saw extreme devastations. I can definitely say that. And a lot of times in a place like Nashville, really close to downtown is what we refer to North Nashville. And so you then see these predatory contractors and repair people who want to come into our typically Black, low income communities, assess the damage. You have people who are predatory in the sense they'll say, oh, I'll take care of your damage, but give me $60,000. So then you have a grandmother who's going into her retirement or, things like that to pay $60,000 to someone who disappears within 2 weeks. Or them saying, hey, all this damage, you should just sell your house to me. So then we lose that element of Black wealth. We know that home ownership is a key to generational wealth.
Yeah, and we've got a tremendous wealth gap as it is. So yeah.
Exactly. So with our initiative that we call Don't Sell Out North, because that's simply what it is, don't sell.
Yeah.
And if you want to sell, then we have, we were able, right after that, after the tornado, we were able to assemble trustworthy legal representation and insurance professionals and people in a number of industries that were able to help people begin that road to recovery. So whether you just had a small patch in your roof or whether your roof was completely missing, having someone who's trustworthy that you can speak to about your options is something that we wanted to make sure that our people had. As well as we were able to provide people with gift cards and things like that to help them cover groceries or shelters and things like that.
Okay, that's dope. Yeah, I just want, while I'm thinking about it, all right, so I know a lot of our listeners who aren't from Tennessee will probably not know when she says don't sell out north. That is where, to sum it up, that's where the Black people are. So it's like, as you know,
that is one of the areas, yes.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what? And let me say this, put some respect on the name. It is a historically Black area. It was, it's an area where, of course, we're seeing a lot of gentrification there, but just even understanding its proximity to downtown Nashville, so it's easy for people to pass through North Nashville and just, give it an eye roll, give it a side eye or whatever, but not understanding the history that resides in North Nashville. But ultimately, it's where our people are. And we deserve, there's so much that has been taken from us. We want to make sure, as the Equity Alliance, we want to make sure that our people are informed. So really, whether you're in North Nashville or not, people should understand what predatory, not just predatory lending, we hear that all the time, but what these predatory contractors, what they're doing. We were seeing people from our team were seeing drones begin to circle about, and understanding that those drones weren't just from a photographer or a videographer who wanted to get good shots. No, it was from people who were trying to assess damage, but doing so in a very malicious, in a way that would only take more from Black people.
Yeah, predatory.
Not on our watch.
All right. Well, it's good to know that there are organizations like you guys out there, and I'm a big fan of the work that you guys are doing as well. Okay. So once again, want to make sure before we wrap things up, letting people know how they can find that voter's guide, the voter guides, and also how if they want to, donate to the Equity Alliance or get involved, how they can do that as well.
Yes. All right. So to access our Tennessee voter guides, we've got a few websites for you, but the most simple one is tnvoterguides.com. Or if you're already residing in Nashville, Memphis, or Chattanooga, all you have to do is put in your city name. So NashvilleVoterGuide.com, MemphisVoterGuide.com, Chattanooga voterguide.com. To learn more about the Equity Alliance, please visit us on our website. It is www.theequityalliance.org, as well as on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at The Equity Alliance. And then on Twitter, we are Equity Alliance, the number 1.
All right, we're going to make sure to have the link to that voter guide on our social media and everything as well. We want to make sure people get mobilized. Again, they're all important, but this one right here feels pretty important. So,
it is.
Y'all get out there and vote. All right, Tereva Parham, we really appreciate you giving us your time and everything. Thanks for chatting with us for a few minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was my pleasure.
This is the Scenario Radio Show. Real talk with a playlist. That's the